Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and well, is he or isn't he? Is Kim Jong-un still with us, or isn't he? All sorts of fun, conflicting reports, including our very own, once upon a time, Dennis Rodman saying he's praying for his ailing friend, the dictator.
Of course he is. Yeah, didn't he get a stent in his heart and something went wrong with that surgery? And then Japanese has him dead. China is trying to investigate what happened. Didn't Chinese send doctors there to take care of him?
Allegedly, South Koreans say
Allegedly.
he's fine, so we don't know, but maybe Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano does. He's the vice president of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation, author of Wiki at War, Private Sector Public Wars as well. Jim, what have you done with Kim Jong-un?
What's it worth to you?
Yeah,
Hey.
right.
Let's talk numbers here.
Yeah, well, our governor is going to send a taxpayer-funded charter over to North Korea to pick up his wardrobe because there's not a lot of people that can wear those 5419 trousers. So, so please let us know about Kim Jong-un's
Well,
well-being.
Here's the real breaking news. It doesn't matter from our perspective, right? Looking after our interests, not having a war in the region, protecting us from a threat of an attack by a nuclear-armed North Korea. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's alive or dead. Who's ever in charge, their number one party will be what North Korea number one party has always been, which is to keep the regime intact. We've actually gone through now 3 transitions in North Korea. They've actually gone pretty smooth. If he is dying, so I don't think our policy changes. What I love about maximum pressure from day one is it protected our interests. Nuclear deterrence, missile deterrence, conventional deterrence, the heavy sanctioning really kind of keeps North Korea in a box. That's, I think, what has really protected us all these years. I think regardless of who comes to power, if Kim does die or if Kim recovers, North Korea is in the same place they were before. And their only real path out is to negotiate denuclearization.
Well, wait a second. What if his sister Kim
His
Yo
sister.
Jong comes in? Because Kim Yo Jong is a woman, and we know per leftist politicians that female heads of state never get into wars or do anything bad.
Well, the problem is the dynamics of the regime are exactly the same. You have a relatively small number of families which are entrenched in power, much like a medieval kingdom, all of which who jealously guard their individual equities, and all of which who recognize that the whole game of cards is dependent on who's at the top. And so it's very unlikely that regime is going to risk doing the kinds of things that would cause the regime to topple, which is either completely unleashing the people and letting them do what they want or starting a war. So I think who's ever in charge is kind of stuck between those two things, and their allies can't really do much for them. I mean, China's got its own problems. The Russians obviously are going to do nothing for them. So I don't think it changes the strategic calculus, which is a big word, and maybe that just makes people happy when they hear that.
Well,
Strategic calculus.
what was all this blather about Kim Jong Un's death could spark a war with the U.S.? I mean, I don't understand how. Why?
Well, I don't either. This is it's called projection, right? People want to project whatever their good or bad thing is, or some people are so desperate for Donald Trump to fail that they'll grasp at anything. Oh, maybe we'll get lucky and have a war with North Korea, and that'll take him down. But there's no evidence for that. I mean, aliens could. Well, I guess Dennis Rodman's already here.
Yeah.
Space aliens could land, and but there's just no evidence for any of these things.
Switching gears because I try not to turn the show into the National Enquirer here with where is he? But
what really happened?
But this, President Trump tweeted again about strongly considering a grant of clemency to General Michael Flynn.
Right.
Will it even be necessary? Sean Davis reporting in The Federalist, according to FBI official who spoke to The Federalist, there is new filings under seal made by the Department of Justice that includes significant exculpatory information about Michael Flynn per his guilty plea to lying under oath to the FBI.
Of course, we don't know what we don't know, so we don't know if any of that's true. Now, we do have a lot of evidence that suggests it might be true, because we have seen there was a lot of problems with the FISA applications. There was a lot of problems with the investigation, and so I would be not surprised at all if at the end of the day they withdrew the guilty plea and the charges withdrew. I wouldn't be surprised. Mike Flynn's an old friend. And I don't say this out of friendship, but I've watched the guy through his military career and his professional career. I think he's a patriot. I think he always tried to do the right thing. I feel he was treated unfairly, and I think there's a chance he'll be vindicated at the end, which I think would be the way the American justice system should work.
And you do believe his lawyers when they say that he was deliberately set up and framed, and that they have new evidence to prove it?
I think that's possible. I think if you look at the evidence that we have on the investigation, what we know, because we don't know everything. We haven't seen the final report from the Attorney General. We haven't seen the results of the grand jury. We don't know who might be charged in the future. But everything we have so far suggests that this was not done properly, and that Flynn is as very much a victim as the rest, as anybody. I mean, he is the victim.
How impactful is the COVID-19 going to be on the relationship between Western nations as some move to open up, Austria and now Germany sort of gently leading the way, and obviously the 50 states operating on different timelines in this country? How's that going to change our relationship, not just economically, but geopolitically, do you think?
Well, I do think there are great tensions within the European Union. Everybody wasn't hit equally. The economies are in very different situations. But on the other hand, I think we come out of this with an arsenal to deal with the virus. So I think over the long term, it'll be less disruptive than people think. I have argued that the U.S. and Europe will come closer together, because the one thing that's irrefutable, that we've learned all of this, whatever your lessons on pandemics, and this is an argument for climate change or the green energy or whatever, what's indisputable is China is a mendacious actor. They are not to be trusted.
Nope.
And in the end, the difference between them and us is we believe in human rights. We believe in popular sovereignty. We believe in free markets, and they fundamentally don't. And the states that believe in those things, if they don't pull together and protect themselves from China, then they're going to eat in the light. I actually heard a foreign official say the other day, the problem with China for decades is we all had our little individual deals with China, and we were all kind of like dating. We were all competing with each other to be China's friends, because we all thought there was a big paycheck in there. And now we've realized what the Chinese did was they played us off against one another to really kind of weaken and penetrate Europe, and we have to put a stop to that. So I'm in the camp that thinks that European states, by and large, are going to wake up to the China challenge, and that inevitably means they'll move closer to the United States.
But are we going to wake up to the China challenge?
Oh, I think we have in a lot of ways. I don't think any serious leader in this country can go forward, other than apparently Bill Gates, which is okay because he's not leading anything except his foundation, can go forward with and to the American people and say, "Don't worry, China's not a problem." I think that day is long gone.
Does the EU survive, or are those relationships with European countries going to be atomized?
Well, here's the number one reason why I think the EU does survive, because in its original formation, it was fundamentally a trading bloc. And the one thing the Europeans really have to do is they've got to get back in business. And international trade between the members of the European Union right now is so important. Don't get me wrong, there are huge, huge challenges here, and there are leaders pulling in very, very different directions. One of the ideas is let's have a Eurobond. In other words, let's take all the debt of Europe and consolidate it under the EU, which, if you're France, that's a great idea because Germany has to pay most of it.
Right.
But they control it all. If you're Germany, you think that's a terrible idea. Why should we be the banker, but we not kind of manage the debt? So this is very, very controversial. But I think a lot of this will go by the wayside. I think, unlike World War II, we don't have rubble. we don't have masses of starving homeless populations roaming across Western Europe. I think Europe has the capacity to rapidly recover, I'm in the camp that things that will get back to a normal faster and better. But we'll see. But what we're not seeing now is we're not seeing governments fall. We're not seeing huge. So I think the worst dire predictions haven't really panned out.
All right, we'll end on that note of sunny optimism. Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, VP of the Catherine Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation. Jim, always a pleasure.
Call me anytime for sunny optimism, my friend.
Sounds like a dish on a cruise ship. All right, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line. Thank you.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruit and veggie capsules contain 100%